All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. So, with me is a seasoned entrepreneur that a mutual friend of ours reached out and said, Hey, Charlie, gotta have this guy on the podcast. And after a quick look at his bio, I realized for a podcast term named Beyond Seven Figures, like this guy fits a mold. Not only has he taken a company to the Inc. 5000 4 times, he's been recognized in Google for what's known as Startups 22. He's the founder and CEO of Rosaldo Cleaning, which is Chicago's fastest growing facility services management company, and Root, which is a software platform for commercial cleaning companies. So, my guest today, he's on a mission, and a mission to improve the business of cleaning and raising the bar across the industry, which is really fascinating. But I'm really excited to talk about this guest because cleaning, by nature, can be construed as something that's very commoditized. I mean, let's face it. You want to get in the cleaning industry? Go to Home Depot, grab some supplies. You can be in the business in less than an hour. So, how do you take a company with such a low barrier to entry in a very commoditized space and then grow it to a point where this gentleman has been able to grow it? That right there is what we're going to be talking about today. So, without further ado, Ricky Regalado, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure. It's a great topic. You just nailed the perception of the cleaning industry as far as anybody can go to Home Depot, spend, I think I have it pretty down, $782, and you will have a supply kit to go clean your first account.
Yeah.
So very low barrier to entry.
It was interesting. I had the same conversation with the founder of Planet Fitness, and low barrier to entry, super commoditized. You turn around, you created one of the top franchises in the world. How'd you do that? Now, his response was because he knew his numbers better than anybody else. So he knew which levers to pull, which levers to push. And so he could create profitability and opportunity almost out of thin air. But I'm curious, what's your response?
Well, I want to get to that for our business too, because that would be awesome. Definitely, my brother's now he's running the business. He went from CFO to CEO now, so that is his number one goal. I think ours, though, to be honest, Charles, is a brand identity. We created a brand identity with who we are as a company, shifting the perception of us just being a cleaning business to being Rosalado Services, a single source solution with a hospitality touch of service. Early on, we said, when you go to a nice restaurant, we're big foodies here in Chicago. So when you go to a nice restaurant, you remember the service that you had. You
Yeah.
remember when they're on it minute one, on it minute seven, on it minute 30, polite at the end. They make mistakes, they acknowledge it. Like we took that similar approach because in the beginning, when I first started, my night job was I was like a front door security at a restaurant and a couple of bars. And I just remembered like how polite people were when I was polite to them. We were just another bar. There was 15 on the street. Nothing to really differentiate us other than service. So it's cliche to sound, but cleaning is a service business, but most people forget to offer a great service. And all we did was just drizzle on a little bit of brand identity and added some culture to it. And we started to stand out. And it wasn't on price and it wasn't on the type of techniques cleaning that we did or the equipment that we use. Because that's another thing that's the issue is everybody has access to the same supplies, the same chemicals, the same equipment. So that's still not enough to differentiate you. So really, it's with the people. It's the people on the top, the people at the bottom, which the people at the bottom actually run the business because without your technicians in the field offering the same kind of service, you're dead in the water.
It sounds very similar to a page off the playbook of Tony Hsieh, who was CEO of Zappos for a long time, right?
Delivering happiness. Love that book.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you think about it, right? I mean, a Nike is a Nike is a Nike, no matter where you buy it. But yet he managed to go in, disrupt an entire industry, create $1 billion company in record time. And he wasn't competing on price. He wasn't trying to tell people my Nike's better than your Nike. In fact, if anything, when you really think about it, part of the challenge was you had to buy a shoe and wait 2 days to get your shoe and then hope that it fits you when you got it. So there was some friction that was there, yet it
Yeah.
still worked because he did one thing better than anybody else, and that was service, right? His big thing was all about wow. Like, how do we create those wow moments? When it comes to your service, like Tony Hsieh was all about how do you create these wow moments? Do you have some sort of mantra or philosophy or anything or culture built around what service means to you and your company?
A lot of it starts with our office right here in Chicago. Like it started off with, the apartment was my office. Then we had a little small one, another small one, another small one. But our most recent office has been, we call it our HQ. But if you go into our office, it feels like a tech startup office.
Yeah.
Charles, right? So we got words of motivation all over the wall. We got a word wall. It's all epoxy, beautiful flooring. There's inspirational messages everywhere. There's TVs everywhere. It feels different. But the number one thing that stands out is when in the exterior of our wall, we have a big, almost like graffiti piece of canvas that says the word stronger together.
Mm,
But our version is the stronger on top, together on the bottom, connected by our Rosalado R. Our logo connects both. So
mm,
within our company, in the end of the day, you're stronger together. Again, we're not perfect with all of our clients. You could have a client of mine that jumps on and says, they suck. It's hard to please everybody, but for the most part, our communication to our clients, showing them that we work together, we're stronger together. The team that services your account, they're just not a cleaner. That's Dora, who's a technician that has two kids, that wears the Rosalado R with pride and is there to service your account and be part of the team and an extension of your business. It just embodies the word stronger together. Like we're not just stronger together as a team, we're stronger together with our clientele.
yeah.
Without clients, we can't hire more people. Without hiring more people, we can't grow our business. All those numbers will relate to the 7, 8, 9 figures that you can build a business to, but those figures are based on the body figures, like how many employees and team size you have.
A lot of people turn around and they have these culture statements, let's say better together, right? Or stronger together. But it's a nice thing on a wall, but they don't actually embody it. So there's a disconnect. I can't tell you how many offices I've been into where they have their culture statements, everything all over the place. But if I was to poll any one of their employees and say, what is a culture here? They're all going to have a different response and a different answer. How then do you make sure that your culture is more than just, words on a wall? Like, what have you really done to build that into the lifeblood of your company?
Oh man, that's a great point because I get imposter syndrome because I worry about that all the time, right? Especially now that I step back and I'm the chief visionary officer now because I lead the technology company my brother and my family run the family business. And I'm always worried about that. I'm like, man, if we get too big and you pick an employee and they come to the office and you ask them about our mantra, that they don't know it. So what we've done is like every year we take a handful of employees, team members, especially those that haven't been to it. But there's a big convention every year in Vegas. It shows you how big the industry is. I mean, this
Yep.
is a $185 billion industry. It's massive. You get there, you're just blown away with the expo floor, the exhibitors, the sessions that they have. So, anyways, I've been doing it for 7 years when we take somebody. Now I'm a board of director on that organization that I just first went to for the first time. So as I take them, people recognize who we are. They know the men in black, right? We're always dressed in black dry fit shirts, Jordan shoes, black pants. Like that's our required look and feel. And the group has gotten bigger and bigger, and the team gets bigger and bigger, and everybody wants to go to those events. And it doesn't stop there. Like I have a lot of them on the podcast. I send them the podcast they should be listening to. The technicians have a version of podcasts that they listen to. The managers have a version of podcasts they listen to. C-level execs have a version of podcasts that they listen to. So we are feeding them with content and information, not just about us, who we are, we're great, this, that. No, it's how to get them better. That to me then embodies the stronger together. Like, yes, stronger together has our R in there. But if we do our job to make you a better leader and a better manager and a better parent and a better team member and a better community member, that's our job. That's how we embody who we are. And our clientele starts to recognize that because they listen to the podcast that I have. They see the awards that we go and get. But our goal is to put those awards on the wall, not for us to gain recognition, but for the team to see that, wow, this company does care about us. They do care that we get better. And we have this cheesy one pager that I never thought it would hit so hard. It's a pyramid of like success and it shows janitorial technician, inspector, supervisor, manager, regional director. Like it shows you what you could get to. And then we flip it, right? It's like you are at the top as a janitorial technician. And like these other levers that you're going to get to, what that shows you is that's how much work you're going to be doing in the beginning to how much less work you can get to, but then to how much more white space you're going to have to work on yourself as a better person.
Oh,
And like
wow.
they're blown away. Like they don't, they're like, what do you mean? I'm just here to be a, there's many that are just there to be a cleaner. Don't get me, this is a part-time job, Rick. You're crazy. But it's not easy, man. All in all, to what you said and to what I summarized, it's still very difficult to make sure that everybody believes in it. It really is.
There's one element when you're working in, what we call white collar world, where, people show up, there's certain expectations and so forth. Then there's another element in the blue collar world where there's a different set of behaviors and so forth. And a lot of times people are intimidated in a blue collar world because they find the blue collar world to be harder to manage, more difficult to find the right talent. How do you go about that? Like, what have you found was some of the challenges initially when you started the business, and how did you overcome them when it came to talent?
Man, that I could, this whole episode could be on that. That is the most difficult thing in the commercial cleaning space is talent, right? You've got the people that are super talented, but in a business that the margins are low and you do your best to get to create profitability, you can only pay so much market value for a lot of roles, right?
Yeah.
But some of these people are so good, and I get caught with this. And this is where my brother, as the finance person with a business, is he's like, Rick, man, you can't overpay a position and then it trickles down on all the other positions within the company. And I'm a very empathetic, I lead from the heart
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
leader. Where he's like, Rick, if you do that to a degree, you hurt the business, and the business cannot grow efficiently. So we go back and forth. The first wrong approach that we had is we thought that everybody had to have cleaning industry experience. You had to have worked for a cleaning company. You had to had. We started to realize, no, like we have to hire off a character, like how hard they work, what's their work ethic like
Mm,
are they tired of corporate America? So the talent that we have today in the business came from like somebody was a master's in education, another person was senior sales leader in the mortgage world. Believe it or not, real estate happens to be a big one. Like they kick butt as an agent, but they were on their own and they didn't have the team environment. So they had the tenacity to build something on their own, which is what you do as a real estate agent. But they're like, man, I'm not part of a team though. So we started to figure out, don't go to where the industry is and the experience in the industry. Not that it doesn't help you, but for a lot of the roles, that's not what you need. You just need the right person and personality and hunger, and they'll build the role out themselves.
yeah.
Like when I'm at a restaurant, the food runner and the bar back are the first people I'm recruiting at all times. My friends laugh. They're like, Rick, did you just give the guy your business card? I'm like, did you see him? How quick he turned the table? This guy's on point. Like, I want him as a cleaning technician. So you got to find the people, man. The days of just putting a resume out on ZipRecruiter or Indeed as a cleaning company who wants to stand out. We're on WhatsApp groups. We're in the Facebook groups directly tied to the industries that we want to find. We're hunting. The ones that find us, good people aren't looking for work. The good, talented people are working somewhere else.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. So, I have a client who's got a phenomenal operation, and she's limited by growth, not in terms of getting more clients. She can get clients. It's just a matter of just turning one dial and she can get inundated with clients. She's limited by her ability to recruit enough people to support those clients. And so, like you said, LinkedIn, Indeed, that's not enough. We talked about the importance of building an employer brand so that people decide that, I want to work for a company that I can be proud of, so I can tell my friends I work for this company, whatnot. We talked about making sure, look at your competition as, the other companies that they would be applying for, and is your benefits better, is your culture, all that other fun stuff. But you're going even beyond that. So, without going too much detail and keeping this client obviously confidential, what advice would you give to somebody that said, man, I need to get more talent? How do I find more talent? I mean, you're always recruiting in this business, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the little known things? Go outside of the box other than just LinkedIn, Indeed. Like, how do you do it?
I'll tell you one thing that has been just refreshing to see within the cleaning business alone. Because I'll tell you, for me, even for like the tech business, that's a completely different recruiting environment than in the cleaning business. But we'll talk about the cleaning business. Like, for a while we had just done a lot of those things. We got creative. We went to the Facebook groups. We went to the WhatsApp groups. But even as of late, one of our employees, I'll give her a shout out to Nelly. She actually also then added another layer. She's like, Rick, people know the brand on Facebook. They know our social media presence. Our workforce, we look for is Latino, right? We're a Latino owned company, 100% Mexican American. We have over 70% of our workforce is Latino. So what she did is she went where the audience is. A lot of our workers are on social media. They're talking to their family members across different states, country. She went on live, Facebook Live, and just started talking and sharing that. Hey, we're going to be in St. Louis. We have a new account that's opening up. It's this kind of size building. We're looking for 7 employees. Boom, boom, boom. And little by little, like it started. Like whenever she goes on live now, people know. I think Rosalato's going to be hiring in this city. Let me click on. Let me send her my information. My cousin works in that area right now. Like she puts herself out there. She puts us out there, right? Like she represents the brand, speaks in Spanish, talks to the audience that we're trying to recruit. She'll do it in English too. She does it both. But that's been our recruiting tactic because our company is growing and out, we're in 20 states right now and we're adding new states. And when we go to a new state, that's very scary because we don't know that area. So how can we find the right people without a manager in place? She just goes to where the public is and they respect that. It's like, it's a genuine recruiting approach. She gives them information. It's informative. It's authentic. She's a genuine approach, the way she's speaking and talking to them. And it's working, man. It's been going for 4 months. We've pivoted a lot of our recruiting for the field technicians and like the general labor workforce that we go after.
So, do I understand correctly that whether or not somebody decides to do business with your company, you're creating a community where you're talking, educating, informing, discussing, whatever that might be, of like minded individuals, of which you're hoping a portion of those people, the right people, will come work with you? Did I understand that correctly? Got it.
Yep, you nailed it. We have a community driven approach and we just deliver content and that content reciprocates into interested individuals because there's not a better funnel for me when you have interest from people when you may not even need it. But now you have a pool of people that are coming in and because you gave them value, their value back to you is labor force, workforce,
Yeah.
interested individuals. Maybe not them, but maybe they know somebody. It's different. That is the first time that we've done it that way.
So, talk to me about the community. How do you build the community? So, you said Facebook, WhatsApp group, whatnot, but you can form those. Doesn't mean anybody's going to show. You can get crickets. It can be disengaged. How do you build a community that works?
Funny enough, what we're doing right here, man. Like I launched my podcast called Cleaning and Cocktails a little bit over 3 years ago, right out of COVID. This was for me though. Like at that time, I was just like, hey man, nobody ever spotlights or interviews cleaning business owners. I was at a bar. I saw a closet that was called the janitor's closet, but it was a speakeasy bar. So I was like, done.
Super cool.
Light bulb went off. I'm like, I'm gonna call the show Cleaning and Cocktails. So fast forward to today, it's watched over 30 different countries. We've got over 2 million impressions every week from mostly cleaning. It's a very niche podcast. It's for the cleaning industry. But I say all that because what ends up happening is on my company, Rosalato, like the staff watches the podcast. They see some familiar faces. We bring guests into the Rosalato office. We interview them. There's always cameras in our office. Like they know that they may be on camera at certain points. But all that then shows them the pride that we have in the industry that we're in. So then by default, a community has been built that follows the podcast, but then is asking questions. Where in many industries, I've just realized this now is nobody shares information. Like we are an open book. We share everything. I'll tell you how much we price. I'll tell you how we hire. I'll tell you what our standard operating procedures are. Just because you know all that doesn't mean you can't execute on what our vision is.
Yeah.
So to me, nothing's proprietary. So the team members, the recruiting department now uses that as an advantage. I couldn't believe how many people coming in to apply are like, oh yeah, I saw Ricky on the podcast, or I saw the Rosalato company being interviewed on this television interview, and I see the R everywhere, especially in Chicago. Chicago, we have a good footprint, but it trickles down. So I think organically we built a community in the cleaning space that then at least for a moment in the time of somebody trying to apply for a job with us, there's that moment they're going to say, you know what? This company puts themselves out there. I can find them. They're credible. I like the energy. I like the compassion that they have. Like, who doesn't want to work or attempt to work?
Yeah.
Again, we're not for everybody. So I think that's how the community has been organically building. And now we're starting to get intentional behind it.
One of the most important lessons that I learned happened back in 1998, I want to say it was. And I was invited to do a tour of multi-million dollar factory. And so the CEO brought me in and they walked me into the back area where they had all their machines and they're putting glue on the motherboards and whatnot. And all that stuff is just fascinating. And I'm looking around and, he's introducing me to his executive team and so forth. And it was great. And then there's this guy who's on the floor and he's got this broom and he's sweeping. And the CEO of this significant size company stops and calls the guy over. I can't remember his name. Let's say his name is John. He says, John, I want you to come over here. So John comes over and he goes, Charlie, I want you to meet John. Now, take a minute and just look around at this floor. You see how this floor is completely spotless? There's not a single thing on this floor right now. We've been able to become as successful as we are and operate as well as we do because John does such a good job keeping this whole place clean that we can do our job better. He really is the best in the business. So I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to meet with John.
Mm.
That guy turned around and grabbed that broom. I have never seen anyone with more pride before in their company, in their role, than John. And it stuck out for a couple reasons. Number one, because just the smile, everything that went into that was infectious. But the other thing is, it's the first time a CEO ever pulled me aside to introduce me to their cleaning staff. In most cases, they look at the cleaning staff as just sort of like not making that much of an impact. They'd rather introduce you to the executives and almost ignore the cleaning staff. And they're doing themselves a massive, massive disservice because, as you say, stronger together. It doesn't matter where the role is. If those people didn't keep the office clean or didn't do a good job keeping the office clean, if you're in manufacturing, it becomes inefficient. They lose pieces and whatnot. If it's an office building, they're going to lose tenants, lose rent, get less. If it's a doctor's office, if it's a restaurant, if it's whatever, cleaning is one of the most important first impressions. And what I'm hearing from you is part of this culture is making people who maybe outside of your world might not feel special or recognized or potentially could even be embarrassed with the role that they're taking, but you're actually connecting purpose with the work that they're doing, giving them something to be proud of. And another reason why you're as successful as you are. Am I misinterpreting this or am I actually seeing this correctly?
No, man, yeah, you're nailing it. It is the perception of cleaning. Like, think about it. It's even at home. Like me and my wife. So my wife started the business with us too. So we have a clean home every day. I'm not telling you I'm the best cleaner or she's the best cleaner, but a clean home makes for a clean mindset,
Yeah.
makes for production, right? Even our two boys see that, right? And they know when they make a mess, we can see it because our house is clean. So same place, same thing, like you said, in a work environment. When you walk into somewhere that's dirty or not tidied up versus a place that is tidy and cleaned up, 9 times out of 10, you're going to know, I'm going to assume productivity is coming out of this one versus this one.
Yep.
And then that the culture and the environment is cleaner. It's just being in the industry has changed my perception and my mindset and my approach to a lot of different things that I do because I respect it that much more. My first few years in the business, I did not walk into a room or a networking event and tell you I own a cleaning business. I was ashamed my first few years. I was like, no, wait, I didn't go to school for a bachelor's to do this, to do. Where now that's how I introduced myself is I am Ricky. I own a cleaning company. I got a software for a cleaning industry. I actually have a podcast for a clean. Everything's clean,
Yeah.
and like I'm so proud of it. So I want others to be just as proud, and it's happening. There's a young generation in our space that's seeing the blue collar space as an opportunity and a stepping stone to then unlock more opportunities because you build a good blue collar service business, private equity is interested, banking is interested. There's money there. And then that then gives you an opportunity to grow into other sectors. So the tide is turning in our favor.
Well, and then, you lay AI on top of it, right? There's so much of the white collar world right now. So there's going to be this interesting gap in the white collar world. Now, AI is a double edged sword. If you're able to know how to use the tool and you can think outside of what's inside of a text box, you bring different context and whatnot, AI will turn around and be your best friend and you'll be a superstar in a massive way. But if your knowledge is limited to what's in the textbook, for example, you're going to be replaced and your role will be eliminated. But in the blue collar world, AI is going to impact everybody in every industry and every business, including yours. But it's going to be impacted a lot differently because while AI might impact your operations and how you market and how you track and all this other fun stuff, we're not at the point now where you're just going to send a robot in to clean a restaurant. It's still going to require people. And we've already started to see a resurgence in the blue collar world. Heck, half of these blue collar workers are making more money than an attorney right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. If anybody on the podcast who doesn't believe me, go call a plumber or an electrician, call them, tell them to do something. You'll be shocked.
Yeah, you're right. The cleaning business is, there's the 50-50 where they look at it like, oh my God, it's going to take over. Jobs are going to be taken. No, jobs are going to be enhanced. Like that's
Yeah.
what it's doing for our business right now is AI is enhancing our ability to deliver a better service and compete with the bigger companies because you use that and you leverage that out. It starts to balance service delivery because the smaller company using AI can deliver the same service that a big company can at a
Yeah.
faster pace because bigger you are, the slower you can go or be agile. The smaller you are, the quicker you can become agile. So 100%, you're right. At some point, maybe, yeah, like there's crazy robotics out there that are doing some stuff. But for the most part, the tight spaces that you have in commercial or restaurant or office or a medical facility, you need the human touch. So if anything, the human will work with AI is
Yeah.
what's going to happen in our industry.
Let's talk about that because when we talk about AI, we've got a lot of people who are running B2B service based businesses or, they may be running manufacturing where they can understand AI. It doesn't take a lot of experience with technology to understand how AI can impact, these companies. But it does take a little bit more creativity when you go, okay, how would AI actually impact a cleaning company? So, how do you see AI integrated in the
Yeah.
work that you do?
So because of the software company that we launched, right? That's this company up here.
Yeah,
We are using AI in that sense where we built a complete suite of tools for like, time and attendance, work loading, supply inventory management, proposal generator, bidding calculator, profitability calculator, like a lot of tools that small business owners, and we focus on the small because 93% of the cleaning industry is under a million in revenue, and there's a million cleaning companies in America. So they're the ones that need the tools. They can build the skills themselves, but then they lack the tools to then get past that next stage of growth.
yeah,
So in route, we're adding the ability to ask route, like the questions about your business,
yeah.
because the data is there already. So like ask route, like what's your average supply order size, right? Like based on the supplies that you've been purchasing for the last year, it'll start to spit out that information for you because it's there already.
Got it.
Or what's the average contract size that I did last year? So then you know if that's the average contract size as a business owner, the next year you can then predict what your goal should be to hit if you want to get bigger.
Got it.
How many employees did I hire last year? Boom. Like it's the problem with the current model of the smaller businesses in the industry is we're always digging for information.
Got it.
And the amount of time that you spend to dig is tough, man. It's inefficient. It creates havoc, frustration. You're wearing 18 different hats because at a million in revenue, you still don't have an entire team working. Like when I hit a million, I was still cleaning. I was still out there cleaning too.
Sure.
So we're trying to give the tools for them to work on the business. Start to ask your business for, you understand what health looks like, right? But so all that, you still have to develop the business acumen. You can't replace that. You still have to work with people to get that. But that's how it's affecting cleaning business owners in our world right now, is because I did it first with World Lotto. Is
Yeah.
we always were like, man, why does it take us so long to figure out how many mop heads we ordered? Like, it should be easy to know that. Like, it should be in a system somewhere that I bought 7,332 mop heads. But it wasn't, and
Yeah.
many years we spent looking, searching. So it's going to help with information at your fingertips to be able to make a intuitive decision,
Yeah.
right? Not a data driven, but a data influenced decision is how AI can be utilized in the cleaning industry.
Got it. So, as you said, data influenced and so forth. And we know that we're at where we're at right now because the quality of the decisions that we've made, which is pretty cool. Now, for anybody who's
Yep.
listening that is saying, all right, well, that was pretty fascinating, Ricky, but I'm wondering, how am I going to use AI in my business? The one thing that I would recommend everyone to do is one of your first prompts inside of whether you use ChatGPT or Claude is just go and say, I'm the CEO of a cleaning industry that services, XYZ type clients. What are all the different ways that I can use AI in the company? Then turn around and have each member of your company add a similar prompt. I am the COO. What are the different ways that I can use AI within my role? I am the administrative assistant. I am the salesperson. I am the BDR. I am this and that. You can even go a level deeper and not only figure out how can we use AI in the role right now, but I would encourage people to say, what are all the different ways in which AI will disrupt the industry by the year 2028? Or go one level deeper. What are all the ways AI will disrupt the industry? Once you have the answer, then what are the skills and the abilities that I need in order to remain relevant? Now, you do that from a company standpoint. You can go back and you can do that from each individual role standpoint and figure that out from a role. What are all the different ways as a B2B salesperson, as an example, will my role be eliminated or, remain irrelevant or whatnot by the year 2028 or replaced by AI? And what are the skills and the abilities? You can spend so much time figuring this out, but it's great because as a leader in the company, my metaphor has always been like, if you look at the captain of a cruise ship, the captain actually will sit back. They're going to have people that are steering the ship, that are, looking at all the dials, but the captain's going to sit back. And that's because what the captain is doing is saying, okay, we're sitting here in Miami and we're going to go all the way to Australia, wherever it is. We're going to go all the way to Australia. So, what I need to do now is I need to figure out what is the fastest, safest, most efficient way to get to Australia. It's not going to be the same exact route every time because they're going to say, what does the wind patterns look like? Are there any storms that are coming in? Is there anything that we need to be aware of? Any obstacles, any this and that, blah, blah, and route the company as it needs to be routed. If the captain, instead of doing that, grabbed the steering wheel and only worked in the present moment, the captain would have a higher risk of capsizing the boat. It might inadvertently drive itself right into a storm. So, as a CEO and the founder of the company, we always need to make sure that we are looking and planning in the future and building in the future and having our team executing in the present. And only when there's an iceberg or an issue that we have to deal with right now will the captain say, you know what, let me grab the steering wheel. So there are times when we have to be present in the moment and just be like, all right, we
Mhm.
get an issue, let's deal with it. There are a lot of times when we have to look at the future. Most of the time, we should be looking in the future, planning for the future, and let the team execute in the present.
That's powerful. I couldn't tell you how much more I agree with that. Like, I was stuck in the present for many
Yeah.
years because again, I joke with my friends all the time. I have like multiple different groups of friends, but there's this group that they all own their own business. They're all CEOs. And we're like, dude, did you ever realize like how much you get in the way? Like, we'll joke and we'll say, hey, if you want to go hire or go to apply at another company, like, would you apply as for a CEO position, and they're like, hell no, I'm not. I'm the CEO of this company because I built this company.
Yeah.
That's it. So like it's not easy to know those things until you're in it. But now that you say it, and I was in it, and I had to take the step back, like it's amazing how it's okay. You don't got to be involved on the day to day. Like it's things are going. Like you step in when you need to step in, right? And it's couldn't be more true. Like
And that's the difference when you look at, when you were building your business up to a million, as you said, you were still cleaning.
mhm,
Now that you've gone beyond seven figures, now you've been able, you talked about, root or route, however you pronounce it, your software program. You talked
yeah,
about how you saw an opportunity there. That's future looking, right? Take advantage of that.
mhm,
And,
yeah.
the different things that you're doing now. So let me ask you one of my favorite questions to ask guests. This is the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. So, what would your biggest, best tip be for our listeners who want to take their company beyond seven figures?
For me, it was when I found the right integrators
Hmm.
and executioners. And I say that because you think that you're the best executioner because you've built the company to seven figures and you're in this realm of like success. But you'd be surprised how there's more people out there that can execute even
Yeah.
better to get you to eight figures. There are not that many companies that you can build an eight, nine-figure company with like 10 employees, but there's a few, but not many. So that means that people, the more people you bring on, the more personalities, the more leadership you need, the more leadership you need. Like it's just a compound effect. Just get out of your own way, find the others that can execute. It becomes a better life. I love the challenge of the issues that I run into as we grow into eight figures now, and we grow multiple companies into seven, eight figures. But I'm quicker now to find that executioner, that integrator right off the bat. If I have an idea of a business opportunity, Charles, my next job is how do I find the person who's going to run the operations? Because I'm not an operations guy. Most people that start a business and get it to seven figures, you probably know better, but I would think it's they're visionaries. So then they lack the
Yeah.
executioner. But the minute they get that, like keep going, keep building, like let the others execute.
What you just said right there almost like told my life to a T. For years, I did everything. I thought I had to do everything. In one of my companies, I had a real estate development company. And because I was so worried about making money, when everybody went home, I was the guy that went in to every one of the homes and swept out the homes and cleaned everything out and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Because I thought I was being prudent and smart and extra way to put extra money in the bank, but I wasn't thinking bigger picture, right?
Mm.
It was only until years later, I'm embarrassed to tell you how many years later, did it get to a point when I realized, you know what? I think I'm good at a heck of a lot more than I'm actually good at.
Yeah.
I'm actually only uniquely talented and gifted at a very small part. But that very small part is why I am where I'm at today and have the reputation that I have today. But it's only a very small part that got me here. And if I only spent
Yeah.
more time operating in that small part, if I knew this lesson sooner, I'd probably be 1,000
Woo.
times bigger than I am right now. It took me a long time to realize
Yeah.
that.
I'm with you though. I have now like a lot of the colleagues that I have in people, man, Rick, you're just so good at this. And you keep hearing the same thing. I'm like, man, so am I not good at these other things? Like, no, you're good at those. But like, man, you're really good at like this stuff right here. I'm like, well, then why am I doing these other things? Let me just focus on this
Right?
right there. Yeah. Oh
I
man,
mean, you think about it, right?
100%.
Let's take football, for example, right? I mean, Tom Brady, who is widely accepted. You might not like him depending where you're at, but widely accepted as best quarterback, throughout history. I mean, I imagine he could probably play every role and do fairly decent on the team.
Right.
Definitely not as good as many of the other people, but he could. He could play every role. He's been in the game long enough. But he's only as good as he is just because he's really, really good in that one spot. But we as entrepreneurs, we're like, you know what? I know how to be a lineman. I know how to do this. I can catch a ball. I can do
Right. Like
this.
I'll step in. I'll step in here. Right. Like, oh yeah, let me no.
You're right. It's an easy trap. I still fall into the trap. And my COO yesterday there was something that needed to get done. And I was like, don't worry, I'll jump in. And she says, don't. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, because that's not where you should be spending your time. And, we talk about people and surrounding ourselves with amazing people. And when you can surround yourself with people that recognize your unique ability, and then they see that as the fuel behind the engine and they protect that as much as possible. So they're like, hey, Rick, you know what? No, let me do
Ooh,
this so that you
that's
can
it.
keep doing that. Let me do this so that you keep doing that. That can completely radically transform your company.
That itself, like if we could put that in a bottle, like that is so true, man. Like when they start to recognize it and they protect you, they're like protecting the quarterback. When
Yeah.
you're talking about Brady, but dude, that's so true, man. That means that you are truly really good at that, and they actually recognize and acknowledge that. Hey, man, we keep that person in that role, and you keep him doing that. All this gets bigger and better. So let's keep them doing just that. Like that's a pivotal moment for sure.
When you're a leader, like the way you are, when your team respects you in the way that they do, when they know that as the company succeeds, it helps them get closer to the goals that they want in
Yep.
their life. That's how you get a team to step up to say, look, I want to protect the quarterback. I want to protect Ricky. I want Ricky to do more because if Ricky can get this, that's great for us and our families and everything else that we want. So that's how you get them to protect the quarterback. That's how you get them to protect you. You won't
Mhm.
get that if you're that selfish leader that is figures, all right, everybody is replaceable. If you don't do what I say, go see the door. I don't care about
Yeah.
you. I pay you to do a job. Show up with a smile on your face,
Oh,
get it done, stop complaining, and so forth. You're not going to get that level of protection. So, Ricky, I know we're pushing up against the clock here. People want to learn more about you, the work that you do, the companies that you have. Where do we send them?
I have a website, rickyregalado.com. That's the easiest thing to go to and see all the different brands that we have. I'm very active on Instagram. That's at Ricky Regalado. And then LinkedIn, I'm very active as well. So that's under Ricardo Regalado.
Awesome, dude. Well, my man, this has been a super fun podcast. I've really enjoyed it. I'm glad that we got connected. For our listeners who are looking for additional tips to take the company beyond seven figures, also check us out at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. This is Charles Gadet with my new friend, Ricky Regalado. I hope I said that right. Regalado.
You got it.
There we
You
go.
got it. You got it.
We've just learned a lot about the cleaning industry, ways in which you take a completely commoditized business or industry, you approach business a little bit different to become an industry leader. This has really been a phenomenal podcast, phenomenal episode. Ricky, it's really been my pleasure. So, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, on that note, I will see you in another episode.